The year of the comet is officially over. The media is celebrating. They're showing you the beautiful photographs of Comet SWAN, Comet Lemmon, those spectacular green streaks across the northern hemisphere. They're calling it a celestial gift, a cosmic fireworks display to distract us from the chaos on Earth. They're lying, or worse, they're terrified. Because while you were watching the pretty lights, something else slipped through the net. Something dark. Something that didn't have a tail until it decided to grow one. Something that didn't spin until it decided to aim. In magic, they call it misdirection. You wave a bright, colourful handkerchief with your right hand so the audience doesn't see what your left hand is doing. Swan and Lemmon were the handkerchief. 3i Atlas was the sleight of hand. I need to show you 3 things they're not telling you. First, the wobble that keeps perfect time like a metronome. Second, the gravel cloud that's falling on Earth right now, the orange meteors you saw last week that they called the Ursids. And third, the signal that's heading to Jupiter in exactly 79 days. This is what happened in the 72 hours since December 19th, and this is why everything changes on March 16th, 2026. Welcome back. If you're watching this, you made it through the flyby. December 19th has passed. They're telling you the danger is over. They're telling you 3i Atlas, the third interstellar object in human history, is just another rock heading back out into the dark. But the data that dropped in the last 72 hours doesn't show a rock leaving the system. It shows a machine that has finished its job. If you want to know what happens when that signal reaches Jupiter, when 3i Atlas hits the Great Red Spot and uses the most powerful magnetic field in the solar system, as an amplifier, you need to subscribe right now, turn on notifications. The next 79 days are going to be the quiet phase. Deceptively quiet. The object will be silent as it cruises through the dark, but I'll be tracking the telemetry. I'll be watching the data streams, and when it goes active, you need to be here for the update. Do not let the algorithm bury this. Now let's tear apart what they missed. Let's start with the anti-tail. If you read the articles on the major science news sites, they explain it very calmly. They say an anti-tail is an optical illusion, a trick of perspective where heavy dust particles appear to point toward the sun as Earth crosses the comet's orbital plane. Illusion, trick, perspective. Comforting words. They imply that what you're seeing isn't real. But here's the problem with the illusion theory. Illusions depend on where you're standing. An optical illusion changes as you move. 3i Atlas moved. Earth moved, the geometry shifted. But the anti-tail, it stayed locked. For 3 weeks, as the object approached perihelion, that spike of material pointed relentlessly at the sun. It didn't drift. It didn't disperse. It cut through the solar wind like a knife through smoke. Normal comet tails are passive. They're blown by the wind. They're chaotic, fuzzy clouds that spread out in all directions. This structure was different. It was coherent. It was focused. It was active. And then it started to wobble. A new paper just analysed the oscillation pattern in the tail. They found a rhythmic pulse. Every 7.74 hours, the tail shifted. Left, right, left, right. NASA calls this precession. They say the comet is wobbling on its axis like a dying top, like a football tumbling through the air, but look at the precision. 7.74 hours, not 773, not 775. It's a metronome. It's keeping perfect time. Nature is messy. Nature stumbles. Rocks tumbling through space don't keep time to the millisecond. Their rotation periods drift. They wobble chaotically as chunks break off, as gas vents asymmetrically. Do you know what does keep time? A radar sweep, a lighthouse, a sensor array stabilizing itself against solar pressure. If 3i Atlas is a natural object, it's the most perfectly balanced rock in the history of the universe. But if it's not a rock, then that wobble isn't a tumble. It's a scan pattern. Think about it. You're a probe entering a new system. You're blinded by the intensity of the sun. The radiation is overwhelming your senses. What do? You deploy a sun shield, the anti-tail, a magnetic structure that deflects the solar wind. And then you start rotating your sensor array to map the planets. Sweep 1, Mercury. Sweep 2, Venus. Sweep 3, Earth. We weren't looking at a tail, we were looking at a searchlight. And for 3 weeks in December, that light was pointed directly at us. But the visual anomalies are just the surface. The real terror, and I don't use that word lightly, is in the debris. Avi Loeb. The man is a pariah to the mainstream scientific community because he asks the questions they're too afraid to answer. On December 25th, While you were opening presents, while the world was celebrating, he released a new analysis of the particles shed by 3i Atlas, and what he found should be front-page news across every newspaper on the planet. But it's not. It's buried in an academic preprint that most people will never read. When a comet melts, it releases dust, tiny microscopic grains, smoke. This dust is light. It's fluffy. The pressure of sunlight, the solar radiation pressure, blows it away instantly. It clears out of the inner solar system in days. But Avi found something else in the wake of 3i Atlas. The particles trailing this object aren't microns across, they're millimeters. Some are centimeters. That's not dust, that's gravel, that's shrapnel. And here's why this matters more than anything else we've discussed so far. This is the binary trap you need to understand. Option A. This is a rock that is uniquely crumbling into perfectly sized pebbles, defying the standard physics of sublimation and fragmentation. Option B. This is a machine that is deploying a payload. Smoke leaves the system, it's gone in a week. But gravel stays. Heavy particles don't get blown away by sunlight. They follow gravity. They settle into orbits. They drift through the inner solar system for months, for years. If you're a friendly gardener, if you're a panspermia vessel designed to seed life across the galaxy, you drop heavy seeds that can survive atmospheric entry. Biological packages wrapped in a carbon shell, protected from the heat of re-entry, designed to land intact and release their payload into the soil, into the ocean. If you're a hostile scout, if you're mapping a target system, you drop sensors. You drop millions of tiny passive listening devices, grains of smart matter that drift into the orbital lanes of the target planets, that park themselves in stable positions, that listen and record and transmit. We're calling it the gravel cloud, and right now, Earth is passing through the edge of it. Remember the meteor showers last week? The ones the news called the Ursids? The Ursids are a known shower. They're fast meteors, white-hot, predictable. They come in at steep angles, but the meteors people saw, the ones lighting up social media, were different. They were slow. They were orange. They fizzled instead of flaring. They came in at shallow angles, almost horizontal, as if they were trying to slow down, as if they were trying to land. That wasn't the Ursids, that was the payload. We are walking through a minefield of gravel left by a visitor that has already left the building. And this brings us to the scariest realization of 2025. The year of the comet implies the comet was the main event. But what if the comet was just the delivery truck? The truck came, it dropped the package, it left. We're obsessing over the truck, analysing its license plate, arguing about its speed and trajectory. Meanwhile, the package is sitting on our porch, and it's starting to tick. This hurts the human ego, doesn't it? We want to believe we're special. We want to believe that if aliens came here, they would land on the White House lawn, they would ask to be taken to our leader, they would sit down for an interview with CNN. But 3i Atlas didn't stop. It accelerated. The headline from the news reports says it all. 3i Atlas ignores Earth. It passed at 1.8 astronomical units. Safe distance. Didn't even tap the brakes. The skeptics use this as proof. If it was a probe, it would have visited us. It would have made contact. Wrong. If you're walking down the street and you see an anthill, do you stop? Do you kneel down and introduce yourself to the Queen? Do you offer them technology, share your wisdom? No. You step over them. Maybe you drop a crumb to see what they do with it. Maybe you take a photo for your journal, but you keep walking. You have a schedule. You have other places to be. To a Type 2 civilization capable of building a self-repairing interstellar probe, we are the ants. They don't need to talk to us. They just need to index us. The snub wasn't an accident. It was a strategic decision, because Earth isn't the target. Earth is just the biology experiment, the petri dish. The target, the real prize in this solar system, is Jupiter. Look at the trajectory. March 16th, 2026. 79 days from now. 3i Atlas will pass within grazing distance of Jupiter's magnetosphere. Why Jupiter? It's a gas giant. It's useless for colonization. There's no solid surface. The radiation will fry any biology in seconds. But for a machine, Jupiter is perfect. Jupiter has the strongest magnetic field in the solar system. It's thousands of times more powerful than Earth's. It's a massive natural particle accelerator. It emits radio waves that can be heard across the galaxy. If you're a machine running low on power after a 1,000-year journey between stars, you don't stop at the little rocky planet with the monkeys on it. You go to the gas station. You go to the dynamo. 3i Atlas is heading to Jupiter to recharge, or it's heading there to upload. Think about the physics of interstellar communication. Space is big. Distances are measured in light years. If you want to send a message back home, you need power, massive amounts of power. You could carry a giant transmitter, burn through your fuel reserves, shout into the void and hope someone hears you. Or you could be smart. You could use the infrastructure that's already there. Jupiter's magnetic field is a natural amplifier. If you wanted to scream a message across the galaxy, a message saying, "I found life, here are the coordinates, send the next probe," you would use Jupiter as your microphone. You would tap into that enormous electromagnetic energy and boost your signal by orders of magnitude. We have a spacecraft at Jupiter right now, Juno. It's been orbiting the gas giant for years, studying its storms, mapping its magnetic field. NASA says Juno isn't designed to track fast-moving interstellar objects. They say its instruments might not even see 3i Atlas when it passes. They're already managing expectations. Don't expect a close-up. Don't expect clear data. Do you really believe that? We have a billion-dollar spacecraft sitting right next to the destination of a potential alien probe, and they're telling us they might not turn the camera on. They're going to watch it. They're going to watch it very closely. Because they know what we're just starting to figure out. This isn't a flyby. This is a rendezvous. So here we are. December 26th. The year of the comet is over. The media is packing up. They're moving on to the next celebrity scandal, the next election cycle, the next distraction. They think the story is done. But you know better. The story hasn't ended. It has just begun. Phase 1 was the flyby. That was the scan. Phase 2 is the sedimentation. That's the gravel falling into our atmosphere right now. Phase 3 happens at Jupiter on March 16th. That's the upload. That's when the data goes out. That's when someone on the other side of the galaxy hears the ping and marks our solar system on the map. Let's dig deeper into the chemistry because that's where the story shifts from a mechanical probe to something much darker. While the wobble tells us about the structure, the spectrum tells us about the intent. The Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile has been analysing the chemical composition of 3i Atlas for weeks. They were looking for water for the standard signature of a melting snowball. They found it. But they found something else too, something that doesn't fit the model. Methanol and hydrogen cyanide in massive quantities. Now, in standard cometary chemistry, you expect to see these compounds. They're common in the universe. They form naturally in cold molecular clouds. But it's not the presence of the chemicals that matters, it's the ratio. The data coming out of ALMA shows a methanol to hydrogen cyanide ratio that is completely off the charts. We're talking about a massive overabundance of methanol, an order of magnitude higher than any comet we've ever studied. Why does that matter? Methanol is a simple alcohol, it's a solvent, it's a fuel, but in the context of prebiotic chemistry, it's a precursor. And hydrogen cyanide, while deadly to us, is a fundamental building block for amino acids. It's one of the key ingredients in the primordial soup that created life on Earth 4 billion years ago. So ask yourself this question. Why would an interstellar object be venting the specific starter kit for biology in such massive quantities? Avi Loeb calls this the friendly gardener hypothesis. The idea is that these objects aren't just explorers, they're seeders. They travel from star to star, dropping the chemical packages required to jumpstart life on barren worlds. It's a beautiful, poetic idea. A galactic Johnny Appleseed, planting the seeds of consciousness in the dark. But there's a flip side to that coin. If you can plant life, you can also alter it. If you can deliver the ingredients for DNA, you can also deliver a pathogen. You can deliver a biological agent designed to wipe out indigenous populations and prepare the ground for something else. The high methanol count is suspicious because methanol is volatile. It evaporates quickly. It burns off in sunlight. For 3i Atlas to still have this much methanol after passing the sun, after experiencing temperatures hot enough to vaporize rock, implies that it has a massive internal reservoir, a protected reservoir, a container, and now that container has been breached. The venting we saw, the blue glow, the anti-tail, it wasn't just exhaust, it was a release valve. The payload has been deployed. The friendly gardener just watered the garden. But we don't know what kind of fertilizer he used. And remember the gravel. If those heavy particles are coated in this methanol cyanide mixture, then they're not just rocks, they're capsules. They're delivery mechanisms designed to carry that chemical payload down through the atmosphere without burning up completely. So a gas cloud disperses in the upper atmosphere. It's diluted, it becomes harmless. But a rock, a pebble, it falls all the way to the ground, it lands in the ocean, it lands in the soil, it cracks open, and it concentrates the payload right where it needs to be. We're looking at a targeted delivery system, and the target is us. This brings us back to the silence, the snub. Why didn't it stop? Why didn't it communicate? Because if you're a gardener, you don't talk to the soil, you don't negotiate with the seeds, you just plant, you water, and you move on to the next field. The silence of 3i Atlas is the most damning piece of evidence we have. A curious explorer would stop, a diplomat would signal, a machine on a schedule does exactly what 3i Atlas did. It executes the program, it maintains velocity, and it heads to the extraction point. We need to talk about what happens in March 2026, because the timing is too perfect to be coincidence. The object is using a gravity assist from Jupiter to leave the solar system. That's the official line. It's gaining speed, slingshotting itself back out into the dark. But here's the thing, the math doesn't add up. 3i Atlas is already moving fast enough to escape. It has excess velocity. It doesn't need Jupiter to leave. So why go there? Why thread the needle through the most dangerous radiation environment in the solar system if you don't have to? Unless you need something that only Jupiter can provide. We talked about energy. We talked about the magnetic field as an amplifier. But there's another possibility. Calibration. If 3i Atlas is a probe, it's been travelling for thousands, maybe millions of years. Its internal clock might be drifting. Its navigation sensors might be degraded by cosmic radiation, by micrometeorite impacts, by the sheer passage of time. You can't run a precision mission with broken instruments. Jupiter is a lighthouse. It's a massive radio source with a precise stable rotation period. It's the perfect celestial beacon to reset your clocks, to recalibrate your position, to sync your systems with the galactic network. 3i Atlas is pinging Jupiter, and when it gets there, it's going to update its logs. It's going to upload the mission report. It's going to tell the network where it's been. It's going to tell the network about the third planet from the sun, the blue one, the one with the noisy radio signals and the primitive biologicals. It's going to upload the file named Earth, and once that file is uploaded, we can never take it back. We're on the map now. We're in the database. And whoever is listening on the other end is going to know we're here. This is why the government is suddenly so interested in the Lagrange points. Have you noticed the news articles? The sudden rush to build stations at L2 and L4? They're telling us it's for science, for lunar exploration, for the Artemis program. But the timing aligns perfectly with the arrival of 3i Atlas. They know, they saw the gravel, they analysed the trajectory, they ran the simulations, and they realised that something was left behind. The rush to the high ground of space isn't about exploration. It's about defence. They're scrambling to set up sensors, to set up interception capabilities, because they know the delivery truck has left, but the package is still here. The L2 point is the perfect hiding spot. It's a gravitational sweet spot on the far side of Earth, opposite the Sun, where an object can stay fixed relative to our planet with minimal energy expenditure. If you were a probe, and you dropped a subunit to monitor Earth, to watch and listen and record, you would park it at L2. And guess what's at L2 right now? The James Webb Space Telescope, the most expensive, most sensitive instrument we've ever built. And guess what's been experiencing inexplicable guidance errors and glitches lately? Webb. Is it a coincidence? Or is it interference? Is there something else at L2, crowding the signal? Something that was dropped by 3i Atlas as it swung past? We're seeing ghosts in the machine, anomalies in our satellite networks, strange data from our weather sensors, GPS glitches over the Pacific. The official explanations are solar flares, cosmic rays, software bugs. But the pattern is there. The glitches started in December. They started when 3i Atlas was closest. And they're not stopping. We are living in the aftermath of a contact event. But because it didn't look like the movies, because there were no laser beams and no flying saucers over New York, the world is sleeping through it. They're sleeping while the dust settles. They're sleeping while the gravel falls. They're sleeping while the signal speeds toward Jupiter. But you're awake. You're watching the skies. You're reading the data. And that makes you dangerous to the narrative. They want you to believe in the year of the comet. They want you to look at the pretty pictures of SWAN and Lemmon. They want you to go back to sleep. Don't let them. The blue shift. We need to talk about the blue shift again, because this is where the physics breaks down completely. I mentioned in previous videos that 3I Atlas turned blue as it moved away from the sun. The comments were full of people saying, it's just ionized gas, it's carbon monoxide, it's perfectly natural. And yes, carbon monoxide glows blue. But to glow that bright, to maintain that intensity at that distance from the sun, requires energy. Continuous energy. The sun's light is fading, the solar wind is weakening. By all the laws of thermodynamics, 3I Atlas should be cooling down, it should be dimming. It should be turning red again as it returns to the cold of interstellar space. But it's not. It's staying blue. It's getting brighter. That's not reflected sunlight. That's Cherenkov radiation. That's the glow of a high-energy reactor interacting with the surrounding medium. We're seeing the engine. We're seeing the drive plume. It's accelerating. The non-gravitational acceleration that NASA admits to, that they quietly mention in the footnotes of their trajectory papers, is increasing. The object is pushing harder now than it was during the flyby. Why push harder if you're already escaping? Why burn fuel if you're already on the exit trajectory? Unless you're in a hurry. Unless you have a deadline. March 16th, 2026 is the deadline. It has to reach Jupiter at a specific moment to catch the window for transmission, to hit the optimal alignment with the galactic center, to sync with the relay network. It's burning hard to make the appointment. And what happens if we try to stop it? What happens if we try to intercept? The European Space Agency has a mission called Comet Interceptor. It's designed to sit in space and wait for a target of opportunity. They say it won't be ready until 2029, but there are rumours, whispered in the deep forums leaked by anonymous sources, that the hardware is already built, that they're trying to expedite the launch, that they might have something ready by late 2026. Why the rush? Because they missed the bus with 3I Atlas, and they're desperate to catch the next one. Or maybe they're not trying to catch the next interstellar visitor. Maybe they're trying to catch the fragments. If the gravel cloud is real, if there are technological artifacts floating in Earth orbit right now, then the race is on to recover them. Imagine the power of that technology. Imagine the nation that controls the secrets of an interstellar probe. This isn't just about science anymore. It's about supremacy. The silence from the major powers is deafening. Usually when a comet comes by, everyone issues a press release. Everyone wants to claim the discovery, to get their scientists on television. With 3I Atlas, the silence was coordinated. NASA went quiet after the initial announcements. The ESA went quiet. The Chinese Space Agency went quiet. The Russians made one cryptic joke and then said nothing. They all saw the same data, they all saw the wobble, they all saw the gravel, they all saw the chemical anomaly, and they all decided that the public wasn't ready for the truth. So they gave us SWAN, they gave us Lemmon, they gave us the circus, and while we watched the clowns, the stealth bomber flew overhead. But the evidence is still there. It's in the archives. It's in the raw data logs of the Hubble Space Telescope. It's in the spectral plots from ALMA. It's in the trajectory files from the Minor Planet Center. They can't delete everything. They can only hide it, bury it under layers of bureaucracy and classification, and we have found it. We've connected the dots, the anti-tail pointing at the sun, the rhythmic wobble, the heavy gravel, the chemical payload, the blue shift, the snub. It all points to one conclusion. 3I Atlas wasn't a visitor, it was a surveyor, and the survey is complete. Now we wait for the report. The Jupiter rendezvous is the next critical date. Mark it on your calendar, write it down. March 16th, 2026, 79 days from now. On that day, the object will interact with the Jovian magnetosphere. We should see a spike in radio emissions. We should see a disruption in the plasma torus around Jupiter. We should see something. If Juno is still alive, if its cameras haven't been fried by the radiation, if NASA decides to share the data, we might get one last look at 3I Atlas before it vanishes forever into the void. But don't count on the official channels. We need to rely on the amateur radio astronomers, the backyard scientists with their dishes pointed at the sky. They'll be the ones to hear the scream. They'll be the ones to detect the data burst. And I'll be listening with them. The narrative is cracking. People are starting to ask questions. People are noticing the orange meteors. They're noticing the weird atmospheric effects, the golden halos around the moon, the sunsets that look like they're on fire, the air that tastes metallic. The dust is here. It's in our atmosphere. It's in our water. We're breathing the exhaust of an alien ship. Does that make you feel small? It should. But it should also make you angry. Because they knew. They knew months ago when the first trajectory calculations came back. They knew when the spectral analysis showed that impossible methanol ratio. They knew when the wobble locked into that perfect 7.74-hour cycle. And they decided not to tell you. They decided you couldn't handle it. They decided to let you believe it was just the year of the comet. But knowledge is power. And now you know. You know the wobble was a scan. You know the gravel is a payload. You know the destination is a relay. You're not a passive observer anymore. You're a witness. And the testimony of witnesses is what brings truth to light. Don't stop watching. Don't stop recording. If you see something strange in the sky, don't assume it's a plane or a satellite. Check the orbital elements. Check the timing. Send it to the network. We're building the picture that they're trying to shred. 3i Atlas is leaving, but its shadow remains. The long shadow of a technological civilization that looked at us, measured us, and decided we weren't worth stopping for. That's a hard pill to swallow. It destroys our anthropocentric view of the universe. We're not the center of the story. We're not the heroes. We might not even be the villains. We're the background noise, the static on the channel. But even static can be disruptive. Even ants can bite if you step on the hill. We need to understand what was dropped. We need to find the gravel. We need to analyze the seeds. Because if the friendly gardener planted something, we need to know what's going to grow. Is it a new tree of life? Or is it a strangler fig designed to choke out the native species? The spring of 2026 will reveal the answer. As the dust settles, as the seeds germinate, we'll start to see the changes. Maybe it will be subtle. A new virus that spreads faster than anything we've seen before. A shift in the climate that can't be explained by our models. Strange interference in our global communications networks. Or maybe it will be dramatic. Maybe the seeds are dormant machines waiting for a signal. And maybe that signal will come from Jupiter on March 16th. The activation code. The wake-up call. We're living in the quiet before the storm. The eye of the hurricane. The flyby was the leading edge. The harvest is the trailing edge. And we're standing right in the middle. I want you to do two things tonight. First, go outside. Don't look for the comets they told you to watch. Look at the darkness in between. Look at the empty spaces. Because that's where the real action is. That's where the gravel is drifting. That's where the silent watchers are parking themselves. Look for the slow meteors. Look for the orange streaks that come in shallow. Look for the ones that seem to hesitate, that seem to be looking for a place to land. If you see one, record it. Note the time, the direction, the color. Send it to me. We're building a map of the fallout zone. Second, look at that subscribe button. The next 79 days are going to be deceptively quiet. The media will forget about 3i Atlas. The news cycle will move on. But I won't. I'll be here, tracking every radio burst, analyzing every data point, watching for the moment when the machine makes contact with Jupiter. You need to be here when it happens. You need to be here when the signal goes out. Because that's when we'll know. That's when we'll finally understand if we're looking at the friendly gardener or the serial killer, if we're looking at a gift or a threat. March 16th, 2026. 79 days. The countdown has begun. The year of the comet was a lie, a carefully constructed narrative to keep you looking at the bright lights while the real story unfolded in the shadows. But the era of contact has begun. And it started without a handshake. It started with a scan. It started with a wobble. It started with a cloud of heavy dust falling on a sleeping world. The visitor has left the building, but he left the door open. And we don't know what's going to walk in next, or what's already walking among us wrapped in a carbon shell waiting for the signal from Jupiter to activate. 2025 is over. The year of the comet is done. 2026 is the year of the harvest, and we're about to find out what was planted. Stay safe, stay paranoid, and keep looking up, because the sky is not empty, and it is definitely not silent.